May Callahan rode the dry wash at noon, reins loose, hat brim pulled low against a sun that felt meaner than usual. Her Appaloosa, Cricket, stepped careful where shale slithered, ears telling more truth than the horizon would. May talked little, even to horses, but she hummed sometimes a tune her mother used to pour into evenings like warm coffee. Wind came thin from the south, hot with lizard scent and creosote. She had 3 days' work ahead, mend fence, check the north spring, trade salt in town, and not enough patience for all of it. Cricket tossed his head, wanting shade. The snake sounded before May saw it, a dry zipper in dead grass near the cottonwood roots. Cricket froze, muscles tightening under her knees. "Easy," May whispered, but the rattler struck faster than a blink, a dirty coil flowering into fangs. Cricket lurched. The world turned crooked, and May hit the ground hard, shoulder barking. She rolled, gun out, and the snake still writhed, as if trying to write its grievance on the dust. 2 shots quieted it. Silence followed, quick and cruel. Then May smelled fear, hot, metallic, rising from her horse. The wound swelled ugly above the fetlock. She pressed her bandana above the bite, skin slick, under her palm. "Stay with me, boy," she said, voice flat to keep panic from hearing itself. Cricket shuddered. May had seen men snake-bit before, breath going wrong, heart racing away from the body like a startled colt. A horse had less mercy to bargain with. She dug through saddlebags, whiskey, needle, salt, not near enough sense. The nearest town was 12 miles. The doctor worse than useless with animals, and the heat could eat half a day by itself. Cricket's eye rolled, trusting her anyway. May hated being trusted unprepared. She tried drawing the poison the old bad way, knowing it wouldn't help much and might hurt. Spit and blood made a taste the desert understood too well. She rinsed with whiskey, poured a line over the wound, wrapped the bandana tighter. The swelling climbed, like a bad idea nobody would argue down. "No dying," she told him. Cricket breathed hard, ears slanting toward her voice. "Some prayers are orders," said kindly. She looked up at the dumb bright sky and wished for shade. A bucket of time and a miracle in plain clothes. Dust rolled on the southern ridge. A rider came from the chaparral, where the land pretended it had secrets left. Young, bareheaded, hair braided down his back, bow across his lap like a word he could speak but didn't need. He wore a deerskin shirt, scarred by sun and work. He reined in, seeing the snake, the bandage, the horse's eye. May's hand shifted toward her Colt out of habit, then stopped because the young man's face was steady, not hunting trouble. "Rattler," he said. English careful. "Big one." May nodded once. "Too big," she answered. His gaze dropped to the bite, reading it like scripture. "I am Koa," he said. "My mother taught plants. My grandfather taught watching." He slid from his pony without stirring dust, squatted beside Cricket, and placed 2 fingers lightly above the swelling, as if listening for a story the blood wanted to tell. May studied his hands' clean nails, scars that knew rope and stone, not soft work. "I've got whiskey," she offered. "I need plant," he said. "Yucca, cholla, tobacco, maybe clay." He pointed toward the cottonwood. "Water near root. We mix there." He met May's eyes. "You hold your horse's mind. I will ask his blood to slow." Trust is expensive in country that charges interest. May weighed the cost in one breath, then paid it. "Tell me what to cut," she said. Koa's mouth almost smiled. He showed her the slim yucca leaves he wanted, the bitter tobacco to chew into paste, the cholla fruit to crush. He moved quick, while staying gentle, as if the ground could bruise. May's hands learned his rhythm fast, because fear teaches faster than pride. They carried everything to the damp earth under cottonwood shade, where the air tasted different, like a low prayer the creek kept forgetting how to say. Koa chewed tobacco with yucca, spat brown green into a tin, added mashed fruit, Then a pinch of clay he lifted with a twig. "Pulls," he said. "Cools." He looked up at May. "You will not like the sound your horse makes. He will hate me first. Then he will live." May swallowed. "Do it." She knelt by Cricket's head, stroking the soft place between eye and ear, murmuring the nonsense words that make sense to scared animals. Koa bound the paste over the bite, snug, but not cruel, then tied a strip of leather above the swelling, just tight enough to argue. Cricket fought the sting, teeth finding air, breath ragged. May pressed her forehead to his, borrowing steadiness from his heat. Koa kept working, packing more paste as the first layer drank poison like thirst. "He is strong," Koa said, a fact, not encouragement. "You too," May snorted softly. "Not strong enough alone." The word surprised her, and Koa's eyes said he understood. He opened a small pouch, sprinkled a dust of something that smelled like sage smoke and rain. "For asking," he said. "The wind listens if you speak the right way." The cottonwood leaves agreed in a hush. Time thickened. Heat leaned harder. The swelling slowed its climb, settled into a grudge instead of a war. Koa unbound the leather by careful degrees, watching for trouble at the edges. May felt her shoulders drop one notch from her ears. She poured a lid of whiskey and held it out. Koa shook his head. Later, he washed his hands with a handful of clean sand, then water, rubbing until the day smelled new again. "We do this twice more," he said. "Sun will move, horse will fight less." May nodded. "And me? You fight only what is in front." They worked in the pattern he made. Chew, mix, bind, unbind, listen. The second poultice cooled Cricket's skin more quickly. He stopped trembling like a wire and began breathing like a tide with rules. Between rounds, Koa showed May the plant's insides, the slippery strength of yucca, the bitter that pulls heat, the fruit that convinces blood to walk slower. "I learned from my mother," he said, voice softer. "She said a body is a house that tells you when its door is stuck." May thought of all her stuck doors and said nothing. Cricket blinked slow, eyelids heavy, shade shifted. The worst hour came and went without breaking anything they needed. Koa finally accepted the whiskey, one swallow, then another. Then he poured a third on the ground and spoke in his own language, something that flowed like creek water over stones. May closed her eyes to rest the grit and saw her mother's kitchen for a heartbeat. The iron kettle, bread on a cloth, a laugh from someone now dust. When she opened them, the world returned to its hard, small duties. Wipe sweat, watch the bandage edges, keep your voice kind so the animal trusts the pain. "Why are you alone?" Koa asked, not prying, only placing a question on a table to see if it belonged there. May shrugged, with one shoulder that didn't hurt. Ranch failed 3 winters back. "Worked other people's ground after. Folks like me fine if I keep to sunrise and fence lines. Talking spoils the bargain." Koa nodded, as if he'd heard this story from the land itself. "My people moved south, then east, then nowhere. We carry places in our mouths now." He touched the cottonwood trunk. "This one remembers more than any man." Cricket sighed, head heavier in May's lap. By late afternoon, the angry bulge began to soften around the edges. The paste dried where it had drunk enough. Koa removed it, washed gently, set fresh. "See?" he said, pointing to the skin where heat no longer burned his palm. "The fire is learning manners." May almost smiled. "You talk pretty to poison," she said. "Poison listens when it is seen," Koa answered. "So do men." May didn't argue because she was too tired to defend old opinions, and because Cricket licked her wrist once, quick, as if thanking her for believing in what she couldn't control. They let Cricket stand a little, leaning against the tree where the ground turned honest again. Koa pressed a thumb to the pulse inside the fetlock and counted quietly. "Slow enough," he said. "Strong enough." May stood, her knees discovering they'd been kneeling for a lifetime. Dizzy, she grabbed the saddle horn. Koa steadied her elbow, hand warm, respectful. "You drink now," he said. She took a long pull and coughed when it hit back. "That's the right medicine for me," she muttered. He laughed once, brief as a quail. The sky bled orange into a softer kind of blue. They led Cricket to the creek. Let him drink a little, not too much at once. "Night here," Koa suggested. "Cool air helps. Fire small. Coyotes won't bother a horse that smells like this." And he gestured at the bitter paste with a faint grin. May nodded. "I can pay," she said, touching the coin purse that never felt heavy enough. Koa shook his head. "You brought your hands and your worry. That is the correct price." He gathered dry limbs, showed her a way of stacking them that burned bright but not loud. Cricket dozed standing, ears working less. They ate jerky, and a hard biscuit May softened in coffee. Koa unrolled a thin blanket and sat with the ease of someone who trusts his spine. They didn't talk for a long time because quiet was the language the place preferred. Stars woke carefully. A whip poor Will tried out a thought and, satisfied, kept it. May watched the line of Cricket's back rise and fall and let her mind wander where it had refused to go for years toward the idea of owing someone and not fearing the debt. "Thank you," she said finally. The words felt like loosening a cinch. Koa nodded, as if thanks was a thing that should be noticed, but not pinned to a board. "Tomorrow I show you other plants," he said. "For swelling, for fever, for days when a horse's spirit wants to run faster than his bones." May poured a little coffee into the lid and set it near his knee. "You wandering alone?" she asked. "No tribe nearby?" He tipped his head toward the north. "Brothers there, aunties past that ridge. We hunt, we trade. Today I travel with a part of my family that fits in my pocket." And he touched his pouch. The night slipped by kindly. May dozed and woke, each time finding the same shape of horse and man and tree against a sky busy with its own chores. Just before dawn, Cricket nickered, soft, the sound he made when salt and shade and a slow trail promised a workable day. Koa checked the wound and unwrapped what was left to unwrap. The skin looked angry, but no longer plotting. "He will keep his leg," he said. "He will hate you for 2 days, love you the rest." May stroked Cricket's neck. "I can live with that math." They walked out of the cottonwood shade together as the east caught fire in honest colors. May eased the saddle onto Cricket, cinch loose, her hands gentler than she remembered they could be. Koa stood with his pony, braid catching first light like a thin river. "Come by my camp next moon," he said. "I will give you seeds and names." May held out her hand. He clasped it once, firm and brief. "I don't talk much," she said, surprising herself, "but I'll listen." Koa smiled with his eyes. "That is better than talking." Behind them, the creek kept their promise. May woke to a pale dawn, the desert washed in silver. Cricket shifted nearby, his breath steadier than it had been in days. She pushed herself up, sore but hopeful, and checked the wound. The swelling had eased, edges no longer angry. Relief flooded her chest. Koa crouched by the fire, grinding herbs with practiced calm. "He will walk," he said simply. May nodded. Words pressed her throat, gratitude too heavy for speech. Instead, she placed her hand over Cricket's neck, feeling the steady pulse. The West rarely gave back what it took, yet this morning it had. They shared coffee boiled thin, the kind that tasted more of grit than bean. May drank it like blessing. Koa watched the horizon. "Carson's men pass this way sometimes," he said. "They take stock, leave trouble," May grunted. "I've crossed them before. They don't forget easy." Koa's mouth tightened. They won't forgive either. She understood. Men like that never did. She cinched her saddle, loose for Cricket's comfort, then met Koa's eyes. "You've got no reason to stay in my fight," He shook his head once. I have reason enough. Your horse still breathes. My work isn't finished. They set out slow, May walking beside Cricket to spare his weight. The desert spread wide, endless, but less cruel, with two. By noon they reached her ranch, a lean spread of dust, fences leaning like old men, and a house that bore more scars than boards. Not much, May said, defensive. Koa's gaze was calm. It stands. That is more than many have. She unsaddled Cricket, brushed him down, laid him hay. Koa followed her into the kitchen, noting the patched stove, the thin shelves. May caught his look. I make do. Koa inclined his head. So do we all. That night, May cooked beans with onion, cornbread hard but honest. They ate at the rough-hewn table while wind rattled loose shingles. It felt almost like family, though May pushed the thought away. How long you plan to stay? She asked. Koa shrugged. Until your horse runs true. After that, the wind decides. May studied him across the lantern glow. His face was younger than his eyes, marked by roads she'd never walked. She found herself asking, Ain't you got kin waiting? He stirred his beans. Kin are in the land. Some still walk it. Some whisper in trees. Days stretched into rhythm. May mended fences. Koa gathered herbs from gullies. Cricket limped less with each sunrise. Sometimes May caught herself humming while she worked and realized Koa listened. He never said much, but when he did, his words carried weight, like stones placed to hold a roof steady. One evening as the sky blazed red, he said, You do not laugh often. May smirked faintly. Not much to laugh about. He studied her. But you fight for it. That is better. She turned away quickly, unsettled by how easily he saw her truth. The peace broke on the fourth day. Dust trails rose from the ridge, 5 riders, guns loose, eyes hungry. May's heart dropped. Carson's lot, she muttered. Koa set down his bundle of herbs. They come for what they think is weak. May loaded her rifle, steady hands betraying nothing. They're wrong. The men rode in bold, circling the yard. Their leader scarred down his jaw, sneered. Thought you'd hide forever, May. Heard you got company now, Apache pet, horse with snake blood. Hand 'em over, and maybe we'll leave the board standing. May stepped forward, rifle raised. Try me. Gunfire tore the quiet. May fired first, dropping a rider from his saddle. Koa moved with bow and arrow, loosing shafts quick and true, each finding meat. Cricket screamed from the corral, rearing, his strength renewed by fury. May fought like the land itself, measured, unyielding. The riders scattered, shouting curses, bullets sparking against the house. Koa covered her flank, silent as wind. She caught a glimpse of his calm face and felt steadier for it. Together they held the yard until the gang broke, retreating into the dust with wounded pride. Silence fell again, heavy but alive. May's hands trembled only when the last hoofbeats faded. She leaned against the fence, chest heaving. Koa touched her arm lightly. You stand well, he said. So do you, she answered, voice hoarse. Cricket pawed the dirt, ears pricked, alive and unbroken. Relief loosened May's knees. They'll be back, she muttered. Koa nodded. Then we will be ready. She looked at him sharply. You don't have to. He cut her off gently. I choose to. Their eyes locked, and something unspoken passed between them. Something steadier than gratitude, sharper than fear. May looked away first. Heart unsteady. That evening they patched bullet holes, hammering boards over splintered planks. May worked in silence, jaw tight. Koa hummed a low tune, strange, but soothing. Finally she asked, Why help me? You owe me nothing. Koa paused, then answered simply, You fight for what is yours. That is rare, and your horse trusted me. I do not betray trust. May swallowed. You don't know what I've done. His eyes held hers, unwavering. I know what you do now. That is enough. For the first time in years, May felt her chest ease, like shackles loosening. Word spread quick. By week's end, folks in town whispered that May Callahan had driven off Carson's gang with an Apache at her side. Some spat the name like curse, others with awe. May walked through the stairs with chin high, but inside, unease gnawed. They'll use your name against you, she told Koa. He shrugged. They always do. Names are easy weapons, but truth is heavier. May studied him, wondering how someone so young carried words that old. She said nothing, but that night she set 2 plates at the table without thinking. Cricket healed fast. Within 2 weeks he walked steady, even kicked at the corral rails with impatience. May grinned despite herself. Looks like he's ready to run again. Koa stroked the horse's neck. He is strong because you did not give up. May's grin faded. Truth is, I almost did. Till you came. Koa met her gaze, steady. Then, we were meant to cross paths. She laughed bitterly. You believe in that sort of thing? He tilted his head. Belief is just another word for direction. You choose where to walk. May shook her head, but the words stayed. One evening, they rode together to the cottonwood grove where Cricket had nearly died. The tree stood tall, leaves, whispering old secrets. May dismounted, laying her hand against the bark. Never thought I'd see him standing here again, she said softly. Koa nodded. The land remembers survival. It tells the story back to those who listen. May turned, studying him in the fading light. His face was unreadable, but his presence felt like a root anchoring her to ground she'd thought barren. For once, she didn't feel like a ghost walking through borrowed dust. Trouble found them again at dawn. Carson himself rode up this time, 10 men behind him, rifles gleaming. May cursed under her breath. They want blood. Koa mounted his pony, bow ready. Then they will find more than they came for. May squared her shoulders. We can't fight 10 alone. Koa's eyes flickered. Not alone. At his whistle, 3 more Apache riders appeared on the ridge, silent as shadows. May's jaw dropped. You brought family, Koa said simply. I told them your fight is worth theirs. May stared at him, stunned, then nodded. Then, let's finish this. The battle was brutal. Gunfire cracked, arrows hissed, hooves thundered. May rode Cricket into the fray, rifle spitting fire. Koa moved like wind, striking swift, vanishing between shots. The Apaches fought with silent fury, driving the gang back yard by yard. Carson cursed, his men falling one by one. May locked eyes with him across the chaos, his face twisted with hate, scar glinting. He raised his pistol. May fired first. Carson toppled from his saddle, dust swallowing him whole. His men broke, fleeing into the desert, leaving silence and smoke. May sat shaking in the saddle, breath ragged. When it ended, May slid from Cricket, knees weak. Koa approached, blood on his arm but steady. It is done, he said. She nodded, too drained for words. The Apaches gathered, quiet and respectful, then melted back into the horizon, leaving only Koa. May frowned. You could have gone with them. He shrugged. I stay. May blinked. Why? His gaze was calm. Because the land brought me here, and because you fight with a heart that does not quit. That is rare. May turned away quickly, overwhelmed. For once, she didn't know whether to argue or to thank him. The days after felt strange, quiet, almost soft. May mended fences. Koa worked the fields beside her. Cricket strong again, beneath the Sunday. Neighbors still whispered, but fewer sneers colored their voices. Some even nodded respect. Mary Wilkes brought eggs, saying shyly, Pa says you're braver than most men. May laughed dryly. Don't know about that. But inside, warmth spread. She found herself thinking less about survival, more about building. When she caught Koa watching her hum while she baked bread, his eyes steady, she looked away, cheeks hot. She hadn't blushed in years. One night, over coffee, May finally asked, "What's it like, living between worlds, yours and this one?" Koa considered. Hard, but sometimes it gives you two homes, not none. May thought of her ranch, half broken yet stubbornly alive. Guess I know that feeling, she admitted. Silence stretched, comfortable. Then Koa said, "Your horse healed because you did not give up. Maybe now it is your turn." May blinked. My turn for what? His gaze didn't waver. To live, not just survive. The words struck deep, and May found no answer. But that night, her dreams were gentler. Spring came, greening the valley. May and Koa planted together beans, corn, squash. She found herself laughing when he teased her for crooked rows, though her laugh sounded rusty. "Don't get used to it," she warned. He only smiled. The ranch felt lighter, fuller. Cricket galloped strong across the fields, tail streaming like a flag of victory. May watched him run, heart swelling. She remembered the moment she thought she'd lost him, and the stranger who saved him. "Guess I owe you my life too," she said once. Koa shook his head. "You gave me a place to stand. That is enough." By summer, word spread that Carson's gang was no more. Folks in town began treating May differently, not just as the hard woman with a rifle, but as someone who had stood her ground and won. They nodded, tipped hats, even asked advice. May took it with her usual silence, but inside, something softened. Koa stayed, though he never explained why. He worked, laughed rarely, spoke little, but when he did, May listened. One evening, as stars lit the sky, she admitted softly, "I don't talk much." He glanced at her, calm. "Then let the land speak for you." Years later, folks told the story of May Callahan, the cowgirl who fought off Carson's gang, saved her horse, and found family in an Apache's quiet loyalty. They spoke of how she didn't talk much, but her cooking and her courage filled a home with more words than most could say. But the truest part of the tale was simpler, that sometimes survival becomes life when strangers become kin, and that in the Wild West, strength was not in speaking loud, but in standing steady. May never said it outright, but she knew the truth. She hadn't just found a healer, she'd found a partner.